Welcome in. So glad you can join us. We are glad that you could participate today in our June Workforce PLC for the CYBHI School Linked Partnership and Capacity Grants. As you have probably read through the chat, our inclusive welcome was to share one smell or sound that you associate with summer. We got the splash of a cannonball, fireworks, water on hot asphalt, chlorine or sunscreen, a lot of water related vibes, and the smell of a campfire. So, thank you for participating in our inclusive welcome for today. As you all know, while we have like a bit of a packed meeting agenda today, we want to first ground in our focus, and the Workforce PLC prioritizes the certified wellness coach position, including an exploration of the following questions. What are the emerging needs around recruiting, onboarding, training, billing, and supporting the integration of CWCs into the workflow and culture of school and out of school time? And how are you defining the scope of services for the paraprofessional mental health support role? PLC members have prioritized staffing, supervision considerations, training and professional development, as well as scope of services. And so on our agenda today, our priorities are engaging in peer learning, discussing priority topics of interest, and providing feedback. So, as reflected in the agenda during our time together, we'll start a review of program updates. We'll dedicate some time for small group discussion where folks are in the CWC work and discuss the topics that prioritize them for upcoming meetings. And then there will be a presentation and Q&A with Jonelle Amaker and Jackie Thomas of Tehama County Office of Ed on their approach to certified wellness coaches, including their workforce pathway, scope of services, onboarding, and CWC models. Following the spotlight, we will seek your input on an emerging idea through a brief survey, and then we'll have time for some topic-specific discussion in our breakout rooms. So after breakout rooms, we'll dedicate some time to feedback and wrap up with our next steps. So before we jump in, we wanted to provide a few minutes to review program updates. So in the chat, there will be a link to the participant agenda. The program updates are on pages 2 and 3 of the agenda, and we'll provide 2 minutes for you to review those. After the review, we'll open the floor for any questions. So you can enjoy this midnight samba while you're reviewing. Any questions about any program updates? Anything coming up for you all in those program updates specifically? Any raised hands? I'm not seeing any. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody. Okay. All right. We are going to transition. If something comes up for you, please feel free to share it in the chat. If you have a question that you are still simmering on, moving on to our success, progress, and movement in the CWC pathway. And so for the success, progress, and movement in this session, we want to revisit a March conversation in which we ask PLC participants where they are in the CWC work and which topics to prioritize for spotlights. We have used this insight to share in March to inform spotlights for April, May, as well as today's spotlight. So we could keep it in this group. So we'll pivot from small groups and we'll stay in the main group. And we'll spend about 10 minutes discussing the phase of our CWC work or any progress and topics to prioritize for future learning and discussion. Again, I want to reiterate how important this information is because it is used to help inform our PLC structure and potential highlights in the 26-27 school year. So your voice is highly valued in this space. And our discussion questions are as follows. Where are you in your wellness coach journey? And that could be planning, implementation, or billing. And to describe this phase of your work and any progress that has been made. Of the various topics that have emerged during the Workforce PLC meetings, Which three topics do you want to prioritize for future learnings and discussion? And we want to know a little bit of your why behind that. And are there any topics you want to prioritize for future learning and discussion? Also, just a little bit of your why to contribute to your topic choice. All right, and topics include apprentices, pre-apprenticeships and pathways, integrating CWCs into existing systems, professional development and training, scope of services, supervision, and workforce sustainability. So in this space, we'll be note taking on our end, and all of the information is accessible through the tabs on the participant agenda. We just need to know which tab we're taking notes on for today.
I can take notes on tab 1.
Tab 1. Thanks, Emily. All right. So we are going to transition our conversation to kind of ruminate on what is going on as far as success, progress, and movement in your respective spaces and what's coming up for you in these discussion questions. Let's just start. We're a tiny but mighty group today. Where are you in your wellness coach journey? And we can popcorn it, or whoever's ready to respond can provide their input.
I can start.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah, we're we're basically have certified some wellness coaches. We're pretty small, so we're a pretty small scale here in Tuolumne, but but we're still trying to figure out their scope of work, um, and moving towards billing, like documenting their services. So we're pretty early. Basically, we have them certified, but now what do we do? So we're pretty early in the path here, but they're already working in similar positions, and so also how do we which of their services are going to be billed to the fee schedule, which are in a different grant area. So it's a little complicated there for us, but I think I have some documenting their services that they're doing, and then we're about to transition we're just about to transition to billing pretty soon here. And so at the beginning of the year, we're gonna have a big push. So I was at that crosswalk walk today. I really want to kind of develop their scope of work, and really come up with like a really easy kind of cheat sheet for them for their, kind of their billable codes and what they because they tend to do similar activities. So kind of these are the codes that you're going to use. And so we're going to have a big training at the beginning of the year. So this summer, I'm kind of focusing on how to do that onboarding of the wellness coaches as well as our clinicians.
Us forward the next school year as we start our planning for the directions we're moving into and how we're shaping these meeting spaces. So thank you for contributing. All right. We will now transition to our spotlight for this month, and we will have Jonelle Emiger and Jackie Thomas from the Wellness and Behavioral Health Intervention space for Tehama County Office of Education. Looking forward to hearing from both of them from Tehama County Office of Ed. And you may have recalled Jonelle sharing about the wellness coach work happening in Tehama at the HCI CWC celebration in February. After this presentation, we'll have a few moments for reflection before we go into Q&A. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Jonelle.
Thank you so much, Desiree. And it's always nice to be amongst friends and familiar faces. So hi, Terry, Laura. Nice to see you. And Jackie, thank you for joining. She's at a school site right now supporting some summer programming that we have going on. So thank you for stepping out. So we are from Tehama County. Tehama County is in the far rural north, about 2 hours north of Sacramento. And here are some of our statistics, just kind of to give you an idea of how we compare to the rest of the state. So relatively low income. Um, we have quite a bit of families in poverty. Our access to physical health is not great, less than ideal compared to the state. And the same with mental health. And our ACE score is just generally higher. And we could talk all day about why we think that is happening in the North State. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about why wellness coaches have been integrated, and how we've been integrating them so we can start to change some of these statistics. We can build resiliency to those that have higher ACE scores, help families navigate to get connected to the type of behavioral health or physical health resources that they need. Some lovely things about Tehama County is that we're the farm to fork area of the state. So we have ranches, orchards. So every season has something else that is in bloom, whether it is calves and colts or walnuts. There's always something growing and new to look at around here. So if you haven't paid us a visit, let us know. We'll give you a tour. So at the County Office of Ed, this is the school mental health and wellness team. And we have to take a new picture every year. We have a lot of expansion, which is great. And then we have people that, are, going on to other places in their career. But this was our team for a bulk of this year. We're made up of a mixture of clinicians, ranging from practicum students, associates, and licensed. We have board certified behavior analysts and wellness coaches, and even that has kind of some stepping stones in it that we're going to talk about today. So specifically, we call our certified wellness coaches wellness behavior intervention technicians, WIBITs for short. You will see a little frog later in the presentation because that's what a frog would say maybe is WIBIT. So we like to have a good time around here. But you'll see there are some different delineations of classification within the WIBIT role. So you can be an entry level WIBIT, and that you can do the work. You cannot bill for the work because you don't yet qualify as a certified wellness coach. You can be a wellness coach 1 or a wellness coach 2, and we'll show you the job description and kind of how we navigate people through all those steps. In the broader sense of our team, wellness coaches fit into almost every hub, or I guess spoke of this hub. We started out originally just having WIBITs work with groups. And then we grew into having them do individual services under the supervision of a clinician, family training, community training, loads of outreach. But they work with our counselors, they work in standalone roles, they work with our behavior analyst. The infant early childhood mental health consultation, they don't provide that, but there's a lot of connection pieces in between either a service that a family or organization that's receiving that work, or just getting recommendations and referrals, things like that. Wellness coaches work a lot in our Thrive department or Thrive program, which is our diversion program partnering with youth probation. They have a heavy presence in that role. And then also in our 2B department, supporting brief intervention and cessation. So they're everywhere. They are plugged in and we love it. So Jackie, if you want to talk a bit about just how we've changed the recruiting and like the pathway of growing our own.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so thankful to be able to be in air conditioning and do this presentation for you today because it is hot. Okay, so for the recruiting process, we learned that in the beginning, the way we had to advertise just as coming in as wellness coach certified for their WIBIT role, it was really hard to obtain qualified individuals. Either they were way overqualified or not qualified enough to even apply. And so then we had to rethink how we were recruiting that and what those steps were. And then Jonelle had worked with human resource and admin on kind of those incentives process, which you'll see later on in the steps of like the entry level wellness coach role, which is the WIBIT, and then wellness coach one, once you become certified after, you can do it through the education pathway or the workforce pathway, and then wellness coach two can all be obtained within the role of our community and our work. And then that grow your own mentality is just really like within our community and within our office, and just that professional development that we offer, the lived experiences that people can bring from the rural communities into this pathway has really changed the way we've recruited as well. And then bringing in those stepping stones on the pay scale ladder, those incentives to then become, move up from WIBIT to Wellness Coach 1 and Wellness Coach 2. And then that big piece of that cultural humility, which can only actually come through professional development and lived experiences and just seeing it in person and inland and working face to face with the students in the schools. It really is something that can be only homegrown, I think, or I feel people come in with it naturally and then you just see it more. And if it's cultural humility isn't something that we come in with, it is something that we definitely learn and grow within not only our department, but just our community as well.
And then Jackie, a bit about the scope of services, because you're a wellness coach too.
Yes.
Um, can you describe the difference or lack of difference between the scope of service from WIBIT to certified wellness coach too?
Yeah. So there's not really in the WIBIT role through our office, it really aligns perfectly with HCI's expectation of a CWC2, which is the scope of work, which is skills-based work, whether it be individually or groups, but everything's based on skill development. So that's at the Wellness Coach 2 level, you can get into those like coping skills, some of those more away from life skills and more into the coping skills. Wow, my brain is going to keep repeating coping skills right now. Sorry. I'm aware that I'm stuck. So Wellness Coach 2 goes above just life skills and everyday skills into social skills, coping skills, and you get to that higher level at that Wellness Coach 2. But really, that's kind of that offset part for Wellness Coach 2. As a WIBIT through our job description, that entails all of those. We just can't bill for them, but it's stuff that we're trained in. The curriculum that we use through our team, we have social skills curriculum, we have coping skills curriculum, we have social emotional curriculum, we have healthy relationships. We have so many curriculums that fall into allowing us to do whether it's group work or individual work that aligns with skills. And so that's that big piece for us, is that wellness coaching really is skills-based services, and knowing those boundaries and those fine lines between processing and the trauma work or getting into those deep nitty-gritty places, and that wellness coach role of skills work, and whether we're helping get the students to a space where they can process and grow in their inner work with a clinician, or once they've done that work with a clinician, now we're helping them generalize those skills to then be successful in their setting. And really, that's just kind of that baseline difference. And Wellness Coach 1 is like life skills and some social skills work. And it really is group focused and shorter individual sessions. So it'll say like in Wellness Coach 1 role is like short, less than 30 minutes or 15-minute individual sessions if needed, more like a check-in, check-out, and then wellness coach to allots a little bit more time and more of those coping skill strategies. Did that answer the question?
Thank you, Jackie. Yes, always robustly in abundance.
Okay. Yes,
I
sorry.
appreciate you. So when we recruit and start, onboard people, we have the organizational orientation where they figure out how to manage their time and where they go to work. And then we have a deep dive into our team orientation where we really get through the nitty-gritty of what it means to be a member of the school mental health and wellness team and go over those roles and responsibilities. Something that we're going to do this year or this upcoming fall that based on feedback from last year is have each role do a presentation. So each part of the team knows how to better work with the different roles that we have and really to build that clarity of what each role is bringing to the puzzle. But we make it really clear that, we are partners in the work. We're trained as experts, but we are by no means the experts on the individual children, the families and schools hold that knowledge and that we are there to connect and support and help them meet their goals. We go through a lot of training with all the staff. We have a lot of expectations. And this is onboarding for wellness coaches, and then the clinicians and other teammates have some different things that they do. But we need our wellness coaches to be really confident and competent in all the things that a student could bring forth. And sometimes that competence is understanding when my role ends and when a warm handoff begins. So we go through a lot of that. Again, this year, based off of feedback from last year, we're going to be doing some role playing in onboarding. So yay, Jack, you get a sneak peek of what we're doing in the fall. Of how to have those conversations. So each of these items in the slide deck that I believe you guys have, oh, and Sienna put it in the chat already, so you have access to all of these forms. But you'll see here in our Wibbit manual, which hopefully the screen changed to a manual. Okay. We outline the scope of work and we highlight what we do as Wibbits, and then we also highlight what we do not do. We have some Wibbits that stay on our COE team and go out to schools based on referrals. And then we have even more that are placed at a school site. And you'll also see a copy of the MOU in there of how we manage that relationship with the school site to understand how the Wibbit is to be used. All of the supervision does come out of the COE, so I supervise all of the Wibbits. And this document is kind of the starting place where it really should have most of our staff's questions of processes and practices in here. So they have a pretty firm idea, both in training experience and writing, about what they should be doing. In our previous conversation, someone was asking, like, how do I teach them scope of practice and, how to stay in those lanes? I have a bonus tool I'm going to show you guys that I didn't put in the presentation, but it made me think of this, is that you'll see there's 2,600 entries in this form. This is our service tracker that our wellness coaches use. And so this is to help me with other reporting that is not billing. So they have to put things in a couple of places. But for every service that they provide, if it's not in this sheet, they should probably check in. So that also helps us keep people in scope of practices, especially those that are placed off campus, because I may not see them until weekly supervision. And so their school administrator might be asking them to do XYZ, and it needs to be represented in here. So we have it broken down by tier, and depending on the tier, they're going to have a different item in here that is within their scope of work. And everything is tied to an evidence-based practice or an evidence-based curriculum source. So really, again, if anything is outside of this, it's an indicator that you should check in and see if that's appropriate.
And just to clarify, those tier 3 ones, which are the individual services, those are always passed down through or trickle through a clinician or come through, that curriculum that requires one-on-one, like a substance use intervention or prevention. But everything else is always going to be supervisor in a treatment plan, through the clinician or the school counselor, PPS, one of those
One of
initials.
them folks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also in the program manual, we have some examples of the crisis flow chart. So our WIBITs do crisis screening. And then there's also examples of documentation. So how to make a, a progress note, what should be included in case management, and then non-examples as well. We also have in here our job description. It's all the way down at the bottom. Oh, I guess it's not a really good example to show it, but it's all in one of how they move from wellness coach or from WIBIT to wellness coach 1 and then to 2. So it breaks down the workforce pathway here and the education pathway. And it's 2 steps on the salary schedule for each move that they make. So it's really good incentive for those that want to finish their degree, that want to get the hours. But it's not mandatory. You can be a WIBIT and be doing excellent work. Our supervision schedule is over here as well. So we aim to meet weekly. Sometimes it's every other week. But that is our collective time to be together. And it happens here at the county office. We do a variety of, sometimes it's just kind of group problem solving, checking in with one another. We did an exercise this year that got a lot of positive feedback of case conceptualization, where we did a listening protocol and someone presented a complex case that they were working on, and we were able to provide feedback. And then we were able to get updates at the end of the year too about how those kiddos were doing. So that was really cool. And we will do that again. And the MOU is in here as well. So that just shows how we try and work with the school sites when we place a wellness coach on the campus. So we can just kind of set the expectation. Desiree, do I really only have 2 minutes left?
No, please continue.
I'm so sorry.
You're all good.
Jackie, do you want to just talk about our model of our services and then how we stepped from COE into placing wellness coaches at sites?
Yeah. So we have, Janelle had already mentioned that we have some wellness coaches that live at school sites, the community school model sites, and then we have our ones that are referral based. What's the word for that?
I call
Itinerant.
our deployment team
Deployment team, itinerant. I'm an itinerant, so I live at our Thrive office, and all of my services are referral based from the schools that get sent in. And then we have the clinic, we have wellness coaches that live, like say at Gerber School. It's a K-8, TK-8 school. And so we have a wellness coach that lives like on that site. And so she provides all of their wellness coach services in-house unless we need more supports, then refers back into the team. And so when I first started, we were all itinerant. We did not have the community schools model. And so in that recruitment process, Jonelle, the community schools model, some schools applied and got granted the wellness coach positions, and we started recruiting for those. And that was kind of that process where we learned that it's really hard to find qualified or not overqualified work for this. And that's what allowed us to rehab the job description and the applying. And then from there, it was a lot of that onboarding piece and the mentorship in their first few months of being on campus. And there's a lot of push-in by myself and our other standing wellness coach at that time of just supporting them and what we'd already been doing for the last year and a half, 2 years, and that mentorship for them on site, and a lot of the MOU discussions that was happening with Jonelle and the schools of like that what we don't do piece, and the schools really trying to understand that like that role differences. And so just learning those tiers and everyone's MTSS structures, each school, even though you think they're all the same, they all kind of do it a little bit differently and use different models. Some are PBIS heavy, others use character strong heavy. And so it's just becoming fluid with that language and working through those.
Yeah, and getting those shared agreements too. So not only for the wellness coaches in our team that I supervise, but we try and support our other schools. We have 2 other districts that have really invested in wellness coaches. And so trying to partner with them as well over not only supervision strategies, but how do we build a shared vision? How do we build skill? How do we make sure that we're supporting our wellness coaches to be able to do the recertification process and make sure that we give them access to the type of training that they need? So that is, I would say, definitely one of those lessons learned that we are getting better at as we go through this each year. It's kind of 1 or 2 pieces fall into place, and then you pick up another one to see how to make it better or where it fits. And then something else that we are doing regionally is that we recently entered into a partnership with Shasta College, which is our regional community college. And they have been working with HCI to have a certified wellness coach education pathway. So when students leave with their associates, they also have their wellness coach certification. And so we are a partner with them for those students to get workplace experience, and that will start in spring of 27. We'll get our first placement. And that came out of a kind of a slow roll partnership. We started reaching out to them a couple of years ago through their social work class, just to kind of see like, I don't really remember if they reached out to us or we reached out to them of just, hey, we're here. We would love to come talk to your class about um, career opportunities in mental health in the region. And then they remembered us when they started going down this HCI path. So that is budding and new, but we have a signed contract, and so that feels really good to be able to have that kind of in that workforce pathway as well. Um, Desiree, I'm looking at your email. I think we hit all the things, and we might even have some moments for question and answer.
Beautiful.
You think?
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Jonelle. We appreciate you and Jackie coming in with firsthand experience to align us with what that work looks like in real time at the different levels. Like, we super appreciate you just processing through all of the increments of information that are required in this work. And again, just largely thanking both of you all for your contributions and sharing your experience. Wanted to give folks time to kind of reflect about everything that we have learned today from Tehama, and understanding if anyone has any questions about the work happening in Tehama, or if there's any like further clarity, excuse me, that you are wondering about. So giving folks time to reflect, and if there are any questions.
Yeah, I'm curious about funding of the positions, especially the WIBIT position. If they're not certified yet, are they billing to the fee schedule, or are they still funded through other grant funding?
Yeah, so they are not billing. We have talked about maybe making that position into community health worker because that is more aligned with the people that we're seeing that are applying for that position. They could easily be a community health worker. But they're funded out of right now our BHSSA grant, which is sunsetting, and then they'll roll over to um, quite likely our capacity, schooling capacity partnership grant.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think you guys have heard about it.
Rolling it over into something else. Yeah.
Do we have the numbers for what I've been able to bill for? I know billing's been kind of crazy this year for wellness coaching. But do
Yeah,
you have any, or for
I meant to pull
Casey?
them up and I did not. In our wellness coaches were close to, by the time I did the HCI speech in February, we were around, I think, 80,000 for wellness coaches. So Jackie, you specifically, I don't have yours at hand,
Yeah. Just a
but
roundabout idea
yeah.
of what that was.
Yeah. And some of the models, if you want to see more in depth, some of those models and high numbers are coming out of really small schools.
Mhm.
And so for our smallers, I always try and encourage people not to get discouraged. I don't think that it's not worth your time just because your school is tiny. There is a lot of engagement that that certified wellness coach can do, even with a tiny number. And it's not about generating the revenue, it's about providing the robust service. It's just a really nice positive consequence coming with that. So it feels like a good payoff for the upfront investment of getting onboarded to the fee schedule.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the one that Casey Hathaway was at, Flournoy. Her child to adult interactions in that small school, which is a K through 8. I think they had like what, 50 kids, maybe?
They have
Like
30 students. It's a
30.
TK through 8. They have 2 teachers. It's an adorable school. And I think she had something like 2,500 contact points logged. Um, it was wild between whole group, small group, check in, check out. She was just working with students all day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when
Wow.
you break that down and you track it, when someone else is like, what do you do all day? And then you track it and it's like, I'm with these students, I'm doing these things. And even when it is small group, you might be sitting with 8 kids multiple times a day because you're running multiple small groups in a setting like that. Like the face-to-face that you get the opportunity to have as a wellness coach, especially living on site, is the numbers are huge. Yeah, because it doesn't always have to be referral based. Like for me, I'm referral based. We got to get a referral, we got to get consents, we got to, it becomes, it draws it out a little bit. But when you're on campus, it changes that referral process and it really is in passing, like, hey, I saw you sitting down. How's it going? What's going on? You're doing those quick check-in, check-outs, or you're already on a radar for the next school year and you're already starting to pick up with that student and it's bypassing those consents and all of that work. And it really is allowing so much more face-to-face time with students.
And just for clarity of language, because I'm in another work group with all of you, we
Oh,
are getting consent to bill and we are getting consent for service. It's just the
yeah.
when we're not already housed on the campus, the hey, and we're showing up.
Thank you, Jonelle.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. You all come with such a wealth of experience and information, and even being like a small rural space, like just Jonelle, what you said in uplifting, like it's not about the revenue, it's about like the services that are being provided. Like it really, like if we can focus on how many touch points, right, that we can get to our students, I think that alone would generate the outcome of that, like the unintended, like you said, outcome is the billing piece and generating revenue. Yeah. Thank you both so much for joining us and sharing with us. And if there are any additional questions or information, Jonelle has been so kind to add their both Jackie and Jonelle's emails in the chat. So appreciate you both.
Thank you so much, and everyone have
Thank
a
you.
lovely afternoon.
You as well.